Turn-based combat is not sexy. I think the concept of it is rather boring, and Slay the Spire, being kind of like a Final Fantasy game but with nothing but the turn-based combat bit, and not even a pretty art style to go with it, seemed like the sort of game I'd least want to play. But I seem to be a consistently terrible judge of character, and it turns out it's one of the best games ever. I know I've said this about a few games now, so I hesitate to say that Slay the Spire is the best game ever, but if I did say that, then I reckon I could make a pretty decent argument for why it is. As you'll soon find out in this gushing torrent of praise for the game that is this video. Slay the Spire is a very short game. My hundreds of hours of playing this game proves that replayability is exponentially more powerful than a long campaign can be. If you die, then your playthrough could end in a matter of minutes, and even if you do beat it, it's probably done in less than half an hour. But there is always time for another game of Slay the Spire, and my severe and crippling addiction to this game has terrorised the last year and a half of my life. It's eroded into my sleep, my work ethic, it's slipped effortlessly into my morning routines and then my afternoon routines and then everything. It has made me late for dates, and has extended the length of time it takes for me to complete anything in my life because just one more game of Slay the Spire first. Am I right? So if you want to give this game a chance, you have to give it a chance. You need to force yourself into a game of it. And it will seem kind of easy until it isn't, and then you die. And in this first playthrough, maybe you'll collect a card that seems overpowered, or maybe you think another sort of card is sort of pointless. Congratulations, you're learning. Your second playthrough will involve you hunting down the cards that worked so well for you the first time around, and sure enough, they'll work again here and maybe even better than before. But the true magic of Slay the Spire is when a card you don't like, or thought was kind of pointless, suddenly makes sense to you, and you realise that, if anything, it was even more powerful than the other cards you had, that you previously thought were better. Occasionally a playthrough will simply work, and you'll collect multiple cards that seem to work incredibly well together, giving you endless attacks or endless turns or some kind of boost that seems completely unfair against all the enemies that you're facing. Well done, you are now addicted to Slay the Spire. It is a sandbox, a playground for you to mess about in. It is about exploiting every single mechanic and mastering every enemy you face. And its secret is in its simplicity, and in how much control you feel you have over everything that happens. The experience never feels overwhelming, and every action you make feels like a meaningful decision that makes you feel like you're responsible for whether you win or lose that playthrough. So many games have excess fat or fluff, but Slay the Spire is a lean beast. Everything exists solely to serve the gameplay loop. It is all very fast paced, no waiting around, no wasted time. Per second of gameplay, this game is so much more filling than almost every other experience in existence. Given how simple every aspect of it is, I am astonished by the amount of depth there is to the gameplay in Slay the Spire. How everything seems to have purpose. It's just up to you to find it, and to amass and to trim down your deck, with it hopefully becoming a lethal combination of synergistic choices every turn. In other games, stuff like defense, poison or weakness feels secondary to direct attacks. But Slay the Spire balances everything brilliantly, constantly teasing you with the dilemma of whether to attack now or to unleash more devastating attacks later on. Everything just works, and hundreds of hours in, I'm still blown away by the masterful balancing this game has achieved. Like how the game opens up as it drip feeds new cards and abilities at you at the perfect rate. How it disincentivizes you from giving up on an early playthrough that doesn't seem to be working, because it withholds the most exciting start game choices from your next playthrough. How every playthrough quickly feels unique and exciting, how your base deck hinders you unless you're smart about discarding cards or choosing new ones which bolster your base cards in some way. That haunting dilemma between resting and gaining health or upgrading one of your cards for the rest of the playthrough. Maybe, just maybe, your next playthrough of Slay the Spire will be the time that everything lands flawlessly. Very seldom do I get a playthrough where there isn't a moment of satisfaction somewhere, where something works better than expected, and occasionally I'll get one of those dream playthroughs where I feel like an unstoppable god, reducing even the toughest of enemies to a quivering heap on the floor. Slay the Spire could have just provided one character for you to play as, and it would still have offered hundreds of hours of enjoyment. Yet this game offers 4, all so different and delightfully addictive in their own ways. It forces you to choose a name for your playthrough when you first load the game up. I didn't care enough to give my playthrough a proper name, so I just called it Pooh. So because of that choice, I've now endured hundreds of hours playing as Pooh the Ironclad, Pooh the Silent, Pooh the Defect, and Pooh the Watcher, and I regret nothing. They all play so differently it might as well be 4 different games, even if all the enemies you face and all the rooms you visit are all entirely the same. So familiar, so homely. and I just don't know how they've managed to balance 4 completely different characters in such different ways against all the same enemies and challenges. It is masterful, and having these playable characters unlock one by one so brilliantly teaches and conditions you into playing the game in a way that it's meant to be played, and soon learned how to better utilise elements that other games handle so poorly in comparison. And each character that you unlock gets progressively more difficult to master. Pooh the Ironclad, your starting character, is a basic bitch, all about powerful attacks, strength, and with automatic healing after every fight. He is still my favourite just because his playthroughs always seem winnable and immediately satisfying. Pooh the Silent is less consistent. You may opt for shivs early on, only to then be offered lots of powerful poison cards again and again and again, or vice versa. But when the stars align, playthroughs with this character are immensely satisfying, with you amassing huge amounts of poison which saps the target's health every turn, bypassing armour and even being transferable between targets. Her shivs can allow dozens of attacks a turn, which often multiply any bonuses you have active at the time. It's with this character that you learn the power of discarding cards, trading an option now for more powerful ones later. You can make every choice a win-win, provided you play your cards right. Pooh the Defect is the most polarising character in the game, in my opinion. You have a bunch of orbs around your character that you can charge up to deliver attacks or defense, making this one potentially the most overpowered character in the game, just because it's you and your army of orbs against the enemies. Yet it can often take several turns to build this character up every fight, which erodes your health and jeopardizes later fights. Health is such a precious commodity in this game. Every point of it feels meaningful, both on your character and on the foes you face. It's not like a first-person shooter game where you probably don't even know how many points of damage an enemy attack will inflict. Nor do you really care, so long as you've got a load left. But here, every point of damage can quite often be the difference between success and failure. And to remind you of that fact are the rest sites, where you can choose either to gain a bit more health or to upgrade one of your cards, which is something I always try to do, even if it means I have to limp through the rest of the act on low health, and often lose playthroughs because of it. It's a gamble. And your final character, Pooh the Watcher, requires complete mastery of all the enemy's attack patterns, as you jump between states with this character where you can deal more damage but also sustain more. This is the most exhausting character to play as, because you have to preempt everything, pre-calculate, really consider what you're doing. So the Watcher is a true challenge for anybody who thinks they're good at Slay the Spire, and it took me a long time for this playstyle to click for me. But once it did, the Watcher went from being unwinnable to being a remarkably powerful and consistently successful character to play as. I've beaten this game quite a few times. These days I no longer have anything more to prove, I just load it up for the fun of playing, like when I have half an hour to kill, and time spent in Slay the Spire seems to go so incredibly quickly. I've installed it on my Steam Deck, and it's reduced lengthy train journeys down to just a blink of an eye. I get that frantic feeling as I know I'm approaching my destination, but I want to finish my Slay the Spire playthrough first! There's nothing quite like Slay the Spire to while away empty time. Just like with XCOM 2, I don't know what's been reserved for a sequel. It's coming, and yes, I've seen it, and of course I'll likely get it and will enjoy it just as much, but Slay the Spire is one of those games that seems to contain 20 games worth of content. They could have just shipped this game with the Ironclad character, then offered the others as DLC, and I would happily have paid for all of it. I wouldn't consider myself to be a gambler. I hate losing money, I hate random chance. But again, maybe I'm just a bad judge of character, because I swear Slay the Spire is gambling in its purest, most satisfying form, and best of all, it doesn't cost a lot. It doesn't hide anything behind paywalls, it isn't pay to win. And if it was, I would be doomed, because this game has hooked me like no other. I went on several dates with another Slay the Spire addict, and we spent many happy hours playing the board game, which condenses the tight, calculated thrill of Slay the Spire down even more. I wonder if this gave them inspiration for the sequel in some way. The problem with the board game is that it gets too cumbersome to play after a while, with all the calculations and hassle required. So the video game is still where it's at, even if the graphics are shoddy, even if the music is pretty dull, which I'm reminded of every time I load up Monster Train and the music just blows me away, even if the game itself sucks compared to Slay the Spire. In many ways, Monster Train reminds me of why I like to think I hate turn-based games. It seems like a more complicated game, so much more chaotic. I don't care for points of damage or health as much. It manages to be both more complicated and with considerably less depth and control than Slay the Spire seems to provide. Legend has it that there is a way of creating an endless deck with all 4 characters in Slay the Spire. This is a mythical goal where you can defeat almost any enemy in the game in just one turn by carefully pruning your deck down and by only selecting new cards which aid in your goal of endless turns. It sounds like a simple goal, but it's almost impossible to achieve. Plus there's always that temptation to pick your favourite cards whenever they're offered. I use the endless deck as an example of one of those silly little challenges you impose upon yourself once you feel like you've mastered this game. Crash Team Racing. I had the demo on the PlayStation and I played that thing every day for a year. Once I had mastered it, I started imposing challenges like to wait for a lap before seeing if I could catch up with all the AI players again. Or I'd drive in reverse around the level just to sabotage the races of the AI players. Completely pointless stuff. Stuff that you'd only do if you were genuinely, truly loving the game for the fun of it. Slay the Spire brings back those same fond memories where I'll do stupid stuff simply for the hell of it. Like to see if I can get 999 block, or if I can eat an enemy every fight, or if I can win without using any special relics. The fact there are achievements for doing all these things is just icing on the cake. With most games, I could critique so many parts of them, suggest ways that they could be improved, but I daren't touch Slay the Spire. Its makers are actually inspired. They are geniuses, and I have full faith in their ability to make Slay the Spire 2 even better. Every bit of footage I see from that new game reminds me that there is so much more you can do with the Slay the Spire formula, and they're going about it in ways that I wouldn't even have imagined. So exciting. But with the game as good as the first one is already, is it even needed? Yeah, I think that's enough gushing about Slay the Spire. It's good. Play it.